Hey guys, good morning. You're live with Bubba Da Vinci. We're talking about the land from down under. That was hopefully you guys could hear that. I'm still playing with all this stuff and decided I was going to blast some Men at Work. I did not realize that they had done not the Men at Work, but another version of that song had been done. Um, and when I was looking for the song to play, I had some difficulty finding the right one. The newer version kept coming up. So I hope everybody's having a good day. We're getting started on a new week. One of the things that I decided I was going to do yesterday, got to do a little bit of game playing. I did a little more cleaning up. I've got about 6 to 7 cord of wood cut down, hauled out, and split out in the fields. We have like maybe 10 days. It doesn't look like we have any rain in the forecast. So my hope is either this week or early next week, I can start hauling it in. Although I still don't have a porch. Everything's been still too soggy to actually start building. That should change this week. So I'm hoping to get a porch on. To get wood stacked in the woodshed and some of it stacked on the porch and the porch sealed up in the next, we'll say 30 days. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Yes, last week's tragedy really, it did two things to me. Number one is it put me it depressed me, obviously, but then it put me on high alert that I've got a lot to get done. Time is always short for work, for personal stuff. It seems like nowadays I wake up and then I go to bed, and everything in between is kind of just balls out, right? I can't even track all the stuff I have to get done on a daily basis. And hey, isn't it always? Good morning, Yi. I don't know. You have to take a second to take a breath. Excuse me. Sometimes I feel like I just don't do that. I even with my girls and just the family stuff, I don't take a breath. I run through it because I'm trying to get to the other side of whatever I need to do next. And talking to my friend's daughter, she's pretty devastated. And she said, one of the things she kept telling me is, if she could go back, she wished she and her dad had spent more time together. Cause her dad being very similar to me. Well, I mean, probably a carbon copy of me, being a military guy, never showed emotion, very, very strict, push, and pushed her towards success. And she's doing very well in school, at least was. We'll see how she does now. But really didn't have a deep relationship with his daughter because he was always working, trying to make something of himself and to make sure, he had stuff for her. And so, part of my personality and the remaining friends I have from the military, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth. It's not about self-fulfillment. It's more about legacy, right? It's more about making sure that you do enough that the people downstream of you, family, friends, things like that, have things. We're cut of a cloth that, if we have if we have a roof over our head, even if we don't have a roof over our head, if we're breathing and we're moving forward and we're getting stuff done, that's good. It's always a forward path. But we realize that we need to do more for, God, country, family. And kind of actually in that order. So we're constantly running. And yesterday after everything. I finally got all the services stuff planned. Now, one of the things I said I was going to talk about today was Helen. Helen has been a hell of a storm. She was properly named. The devastation, and in most unusual areas, have just caused major issues across the United States, including this weekend. Trainer Club and I are supposed to be going to an event in Virginia. Now, we were supposed to be launching a product there and doing this massive setup there. It has since been scaled back. And we're going there to meet with the last couple of vendors for the end of the year. It's literally a day in and a day out. But as today, I'll be finding out if we're even going to do that. Hold on. Pardon me. Not because the storm hit really bad in that part of Virginia, but most of our vendors come from the East Coast. And I'm hearing from a lot of them, there is no way for them to get, or shouldn't say no way, not an easy way for them to get to the event. Because from Florida all the way up to Virginia, there has been flooding, tornadoes. The storm has done things. Asheville, North Carolina, which is very near where my daughter goes to college, there's a town called Chimney Rock in a well-known park. So Asheville, North Carolina is well known for beer and weed. It's like this hippie area up in Asheville. Beautiful, beautiful area. It's also where the Biltmore estate is, which is the Vanderbilt estate. It's the Vanderbilt family is one of America's old money elite families. Gloria Vanderbilt owned a clothing line, but the family made tons of money in steel in the 1800s. And they own this massive estate there that you can tour. Well, that area has been flooded. Chimney Rock, the town, no longer exists. Their reservoir and dams were getting ready to break, and so they opened up the floodgates and flooded the entire towns. If you go on TikTok and you look up North Carolina, Asheville, Augusta, Georgia, any of that stuff on TikTok, you will see the mass devastation. Matter of fact, if you guys remember where I was, where the Jeep event, Smoky Mountain Jeep event was, which is Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and that area, tons of it gone. Buildings that I ate in, gone. That bridge that I crossed to get up to my cabin, gone. The cabin's still there because it's way up in the hill, but that river completely overflooded its bounds. Every one of those bridges got knocked down. That bridge does not exist anymore. Bam. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of devastation. And so many roads are washed out and cities are closed that people traveling from south of Virginia trying to get up there's a lot of damage and road damage and things like that. And a lot of people are dealing with damage in their own areas. And so a lot of the vendors I've been talking to are saying they're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to go to the event. I challenge you, look up Helen, storms, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, everything else that's going up, and the storm's still going up there. So I've got to make a decision today whether I'm either going to try to cancel my flights round trip, and Billy's, or still try to go out there and see some of the vendors. We're really literally flying into Richmond, 2-hour drive up to the event, 1 day there filming and seeing vendors, and then fly back out the next day. We canceled our Airbnb, everything else. So we're actually going to stay in Richmond. And I don't know if Richmond has any storms yet. So anyway, we're going to see. So anyway, all this stuff to be saying that, I kind of realize life is short. Got to get back on the horse. That's why I did the horse photo this morning. And I had my cowboy hat on. I actually did go work the horses this morning. I need to keep pushing and trying to, make sure not only am I leaving my mark and my legacy, which is not as important to me as it probably was in the past, but more than that, I'm just enjoying a little bit of life and spending more quality time with people, not always talking business. I travel with Billy all the time. And most of the conversations we have are, what are we shooting today? How much are we getting done? Even if we were playing Pokemon Go, we're almost playing it at a business level because Billy has to shoot content, and it's almost not fun. I mean, if Farm Don's not there to kind of hang back with me, it's freaking work. It's serious work. And I want to start seeing a little bit more of the joy as part of what we're doing. So, all right. So let's talk about the Land Down Under. So last week I talked about, getting the petition ready, getting it launched. I was going to launch it on Saturday. Now, the goal of this petition is I want to try to get 100,000 or more signatures. And, both Billy, I don't want to speak for Billy, so let me just speak for myself. But the conversations I've been having with a lot of people is it's harder and harder to make content in Pokemon Go and in general. Let's just say in general, but in Pokemon Go that's relevant because the mechanics of the things that they're doing aren't that interesting. The gameplay is kind of stagnating. And when they do events like they did, they have 3 events in Southeast Asia. They keep doing events in the same regions and same areas and everything else. And while they track numbers and they do things, there's nothing significant. Like Jakarta, I'm sure was pretty. And they're doing something over there. And you got players over there. And you got the same content creators. You've got, Zoe Two Dots. And you've got Fleece King. And you got the same people flying to the same events, doing the same coverage. If you took all their coverage from every single event, you could almost replay the material right over each other because they say the exact same thing. It's all the same stuff because there's nothing new to talk about. Yeah, it's okay. Pretty new location. Oh my goodness, it's so gorgeous here. Oh my goodness, I caught another shiny. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, right? Same shit, different day. I just don't know how you change that. Yeah. And one of the things is Australia is a huge supporter of Pokemon Go. It's a bucket list location for so many people to travel to just on vacation and to go. They want it. I think every content creator, with the exceptions of the ones that get sent out, because that's what happens. I mean, you got probably a half a dozen content creators from Australia that go every place else, but no one's gone into Australia, really. It would be significantly new content because most of your content creators have never been there. You would have, as far as actually playing and doing and seeing things, all the stops would be new. The cities would be new. It's like the DNA of Niantic is about getting people to get out and explore. Yet you kind of keep going back to the same major cities and the same things. New York twice. It's like, okay, do we have to do a US event? You don't have to. I'm sure the US would be fine if you didn't do a Go Fest here one year and you said, this year we're doing a Go Fest in Australia. I'm sure you'd sell either just as many tickets or you would, people would pick up the global one, the global ticket. I know Australia's got some gorgeous. Now I didn't realize how big Australia was. Yeah, and for this endeavor, I actually ordered a map from Amazon because when I started Googling stuff, I was like, shit. I mean, it's really spread out, and it's all on the coast for the most part. I didn't realize that. I mean, from Brisbane or Brisbane. No, is that right? Brisbane? Missing O corrected me the other day. I think they say Brisbane. From, and I don't even know geographically if I'm already correct or incorrect. So along the coast, let me see if I can even find it. There we go. So you have what the hell? Okay, yeah. Brisbane is in Queensland, and then Sydney is in New South Wales. Melbourne is in Victoria, I guess. And then you have southern Australia, which would be Adelaide, and Western Australia would be Perth. And then I don't know if they have anything in the Northern Territories, but I think you have in Queensland you have Cairns. So I mean, it's big and it's spread out, and it's like, wow, there's so much to explore there. Now, coming from both sides, now we talked about this before. Australia is probably the original overlanding territory. Yeah, there is so much overlanding there. Matter of fact, that song "Land from Down Under," the lyrics of the song, go traveling in a fried out Combe. Okay, so a Combe is a old VW bus, what we would call a VW bus here in the United States. They don't make them anymore. They were made from the 50s to the last one was made in 1967, 1968. VW buses rock. All VWs rock. Volkswagen, which is a German-made vehicle. I'm sure all you guys know that. That was my very first vehicle, and they are if you're going to get your kid a first vehicle, and you want your son, daughter, whatever, to learn how to work on a car, highly recommend a VW. It's the old ones, a VW Bug or a VW bus or whatever. First of all, they were made with the Germans made them kind of like the Americans made the Jeep. Very easy to work on and do things. Like the engine, for like on a VW Bug, the engine's not in the front, it's in the back, and you have the hood's in the front, your trunk, and the engine is held on only by 4 bolts. And so my first VW Bug, I could drop an engine in probably an hour. 4 bolts, drop it down. Yeah, it was super easy. I made 2 Baja Bugs when I was in high school, junior high to high school. We had a shop teacher that promoted VW, meaning like he encouraged all of us to get one for our first car. They were very easy to find in the 70s and 80s. And we could bring them in the shop and work on them. So my first one is I bought one with the blown out engine, and they let us work on it in shop, and it was super easy, got it up and running. And then, the teacher suggested, hey, there was another one available, and I saved up my money and I was able to buy that. We made a Baja Bug out of it, lifted the top, welded the frame, and took those oversized tires, and you ran it like a dune buggy. Super cool. But anyway, so traveling in a fried out Combe on a hippie trail full of zombies. We won't talk about what that means. And then, anyway, it sounds like such a fun place. I mean, where beer flows and men chunder. I mean, okay, if that doesn't, that's chunder means to throw up. To throw up all your alcohol. It sounds like a party. I mean, the idea of this whole song is about getting out on the road and touring and just kind of life's experiences. If you watch Crocodile Dundee, it's about the walkabout. It's about traveling. It's about, Missing O said when he was a kid, used to go out and they'd camp, right? And his mom used to overland. It's so in their DNA. Freaking Australians and old Americans. When I say I'm old Americans, I'm talking about 20, 30 years ago. We're kind of kin. We're the people that got kicked out of the main country. We were rough. We did what we had to do to settle the land. We had adventure in our blood. We didn't mind drinking hard and fighting hard and loving hard and adventuring hard, and that's attractive. right? Those are attractive traits, and it's energizing. And I'd love to get over there and see that. And there's nothing really stopping me. I mean, from doing other than time. It's definitely a long flight. I think that's what stops a lot of people. It's not expensive. Round trip from San Francisco or LA to Sydney, Australia, or in most of those places is around $1,000. That's what I would pay to go to Southeast Asia when I go, for any of these events in Southeast Asia. That's what I'd be paying too. Actually, sometimes more. Japan was like $2,000 when I went to Japan. So I'm not sure why Niantic is holding back from doing an event there. From an economic situation, it doesn't cost any more than any of these other countries. Time-wise, yes, there's a little more time in a plane, but I wouldn't call it significant enough to stop it. I mean, for the Australians to go to Europe, it's the same thing. Why are you just, I don't know. Again, unexplored territory. That should be there. Better content for the creators. So many people are going to see things that they've never seen through the creator's eyes. That's going out there. Merchandise. Okay. Hawaii was a boon for merchandising. All the custom plushies and everything else that were Hawaiian based, and everybody, they made tens of millions of dollars. There's no way they didn't make bank on that. You started doing custom merchandise for Australia, a one-time event that you might not ever get again. Seems to me that you could probably make most of your money back just on merchandising. I mean, that's how crazy I think it would be. So anyway, I started a petition. It's going live. I'm going to click live on this show. I got the initial people out there. It basically, and I think I can read it. I don't think I can read it. I may be able to read it. Anyway, you'll be able to read it. I think it was well written. And basically what we're doing is we're encouraging Niantic to look at Australia as a 2025 Go Fest stop. The problem with Niantic and everything we were doing with the Niantic Hear Us and everything else during the old days is, number one, nobody really made good economic arguments. Over this 90-day petition period, I'm going to keep going out there and making economic points and things like that of why Australia would be a fantastic stop for a Go Fest. Number two is, I know that they were looking at doing one there before, but COVID hit, and there's the support there for it. So we know the government and the cities would bend over backwards to go ahead and do an event there. So you can't say it's not because of support. You can't say it's not because there's a base there, because from the statistics that I found, first of all, the number of gamers in Australia is massive. But it was like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 people in Australia have touched Pokemon Go. Now, whether they're still playing it or they're not playing it, it's a huge number. And if you wanted to revive that audience, which Niantic seems to want to keep doing, they keep trying tricks and things like that to get people to come in and play. Maybe give that community something that they can be proud of. Maybe bring people in and get that community all fired up to get they're getting the Olympics, for God's sake, in Brisbane. I don't think Missing O is on this morning. If he was, he could tell me if I'm saying it correctly or not. But Brisbane is getting the Olympics. So there are so many events that are held in Australia. It's obviously well situated, and infrastructure wise, it's got everything that you would need. Whether you did it in Sydney or did it in Brisbane or did it in Perth or wherever for your first event. I mean, obviously I would think it would probably be Sydney, but again, I don't care. But I've already got some people that have signed. I needed people to sign the initial petition so I could get it live. Those people signed. I've pinged content creators. I've asked them to share and encourage their people to follow this, because when everybody was just bitching at Niantic about the things inside the game, Niantic just closed its ears and it's not listening. Plus, it was everybody out there throwing out their own opinion. The reason I did a petition this time is if we can get 100, 200, 500,000, a million people, whatever the number is, to sign it, it's a focused endeavor as opposed to every talking head trying to, and I'm sorry, I'm sick, trying to prove their own points about why Niantic is doing something wrong. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. I'm just saying that maybe they're so set in their ways, they need to break outside the box a little bit. We're not asking them to change content. We're not asking them to, put new Pokemon in the game or doing things like that. We're just asking them to go back and look at their original DNA. They're a company about, exploring and tagging and learning geographical areas, and they do it via a game. Take the game to some place it's never been. I mean, the game is released there, but where the community hasn't seen it, where everybody that goes there outside of the Australian content creators are getting to spin new stops, see new things, to create new content. You'll have guys over there that spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks over there because there's so many people in that country they're friends with, and the content creators from Australia should be ambassadors. Zoe, Two Dots, and Cricket, and Fleece King, all these people should be ambassadors for their countries and welcoming these content creators into their country and showing them around. There's so much opportunity here to revitalize it and getting new press and new content, and they're sitting on their lily white asses in their corporate office trying to get people to get excited about the game by taking an old game mechanic and throwing new lipstick on it. Right? And you guys need Niantic. You need these content creators to have something interesting to talk about. Otherwise, their numbers are going to keep going down. We need new content. We need something that's exciting. Yeah. Now, I'm excited about it. I've got a dual purpose, to be completely honest, for doing this campaign. Number one is we have several vendors that we're talking to in the overland business that are from Australia. We're getting ready to launch a brand new stream that's about overlanding. That would be a great place to kind of kick things off that ties in with Pokemon Go in our new stream and in our overland content. We're hearing from a lot of people that overlanding and camping and things like that are starting to die too, because kids are so plugged in to their video games and their stuff, their electronics, that unplugging is difficult for them. So one of the things Trainer Club and I have been talking about is doing a monthly broadcast that talks about how to unplug your kids through them being plugged in. Meaning that the Pokemon Go game and several of their games are all about exploring. It's about going and finding out, there's all these places that are tagged and stopped. And if you actually use the tools that are in there, you could actually create very fun environments for your kids using the games. Now, the game shouldn't be on all the time, but you can set locations to travel to and goals, like going to the Grand Canyon and getting the Pokestop at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Those are all cool things that you can do and you can learn. Geocaching. Geocaching does the same sort of thing. Getting on your app, looking up geocaching sites and trying to find those geocaches in amazing areas. When geocaching was back in its heyday and I first started traveling for video games, when I went to these countries like Russia and China and everything else, I would use my GPS and the web to find geocaches in different countries, and they would usually take me to historical sites and things like that, and I would explore. There is so much you can do to tie gaming into getting outdoors. And I mean, and once the kids get out there, my daughters were kind of the same way. It's, first they're, I don't want to go and I don't want to do the hiking and everything else. And then they jump in their first lake, or they go fishing, or they go ice climbing, or whatever it was. And then they were all into it. The problem with being young is you think you know everything, and you think, and the things you don't know what you don't like because you don't know it yet. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to cross the genres, because guess what? That's the way our new world is. Everything's so effing crossed and cluttered that you can't break away from one thing to see another. And so, yeah, anyway, so the petition goes live. I'm going to, you'll be able, if you guys go to any of my social media, you'll be able to take a look. I'll kind of show you here in a second. Yeah, I don't know if I can actually do it. Huh. Okay, I may not be able to do this, so you'll have to go and check it out. What I can do is, if you guys want to grab it, nope. Yep. Okay, that's the URL for the petition. You can go check it out and see it. But the easier way, well, if you look at any of my socials here in about 15, 20 minutes, I'll populate it. Share the shit out of it. Share it every single day. The numbers can get there. If you guys have followers of your own, they don't have to, it'll ask you if you want to volunteer to pay $4 to help spread it further. Just click no. Just share it. If every person signs it once, considering how many content creators and people we know, we should be able to get 100,000 people easy. And the more people we get to sign it, the more Niantic will listen. And that's kind of what we want to get done, right? We want to try to figure out, we want to get Niantic to hear us. And if they hear us for this, maybe they'll start listening for other things too. I'm not saying everything that we want you should put a petition on, but when I was doing the video game company stuff, when I was the COO of S2 Games, we'd get things all the time, and there's so many talking heads out there. You'd read it, and then you'd bypass it, and you read it, and you bypass it. The ones that I would pay attention to was when I would see something posted and it had 50,000 people that all agreed or check with something. And then you're like, ooh, maybe I should pay attention. Right. And so again, the idea of the petition is to go out there and figure out what we can potentially do to make these people listen. And we may not be able to get it happen in 2025, but I would like to hear an announcement in 2025 that Australia is happening. All right. And so we'll be doing a lot more with this. I know Trainer Club's going to share it. I have lots of people that said they're going to share this thing. We are going to push. This is a high priority for me on a couple different levels, but that's going on. So we talked about the storm. We talked about the petition and going down under. I'm super excited about that portion. So Farm Dawn and Wifey agreed to jump on and play some World of Warcraft with me. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, has the game held up? Now, I'm going to look at this from a couple different perspectives. All right. Number one, I worked on that game for 3 years. And so I played it a lot. Now, it was kind of funny. I was helping Farm Dawn play a little bit yesterday. Well, not a little bit. We played for probably 2.5 hours or 3 hours. And the interesting thing about that was muscle memory. So I told them we could pick Alliance or Horde. They wanted to go Alliance, so we went Alliance. And I told them they could pick any of the characters, any of the races they wanted to. Both opted to go human. All right. And so the interesting thing about if you pick any of the original 4 is you can basically play. You can start with the original content. If you play any of the new races, it advances you quite a bit, kind of catches you up in the game, and you have to travel over to get to the old content, but it starts you in new areas, and you automatically have things that you wouldn't have had in the old school way. I mean, it's like, when I got the game the first time, I dumped on and I played the Dragon Race just to kind of see some of the new content. And as soon as I logged in the game, I already had all my bag slots. I already had, all this faction. It was already opened up, because starting with that kind, you're moving forward in history and the lore. And so all these wars from, like, I mean, I'm talking about the last time I played was 2008. And so since then, there's been so many new additions and so much expansion in the game that they can't take that away. And so when you join a race that's from one of those expansions, you're kind of starting from that point, or you can click and actually start at the most current. But anything behind that, you have to go seek and find, if that makes sense. And so, when I got this Dragon Race, I was like, shit, here's all these things on my screen that I have no idea what they do or how they operate. And it got very frustrating for me very quickly, because I guess since I got off, the Horde and the Alliance are now friendly. You still have things out there to fight, but it used to be, that's where the battle was happening. Yeah, it was like Horde and Alliance. That's it. I don't know what happened that now there's a Horde. Like, if you go to Stormwind, which is the main city, you go there is a Horde ambassadors. There's an entire section that is Horde. In that city, I was able to run around past Horde areas and not aggro everything and get demolished. I remember back in 2007, 2006, 2007, 2008, the cool thing was to be I was a rogue, and to be able to go and viz and sneak and see how close you could get, or even get into Orgrimmar, the Horde city, and sneaking around inside there and sitting and watching people, things like that. It was so different back then. And now all that was gone. And so it was like, and like I said, so many new features and things in the game. Quickly dumped the Dragon Race. I think I played that for about 30, 40 minutes and it was overwhelmed and done. And so, although I'll tell you what, the graphics looked really cool. That dragon race is pretty badass. Can only be an evoker. It can only be one class. And I'm not a caster. So that was interesting. So anyway, waited for wifey to make her character. She made a human mage. And she played and she was getting along pretty good. And then farmed on yesterday, made a human, actually a Worgen druid, which is kind of like a werewolf. Did not have a lot of luck with that. And I think he was getting very frustrated with the game. Huge learning curve. So I was waiting for both of them to come out there. Now, based on the amount of his frustration, I told him my favorite class to play, and I think the easiest class in the game back in the day, was a hunter. So he chose to become a human hunter. And the reason for that is a hunter gets a pet. He's a long-ranged player character that you can send your pet in to do a lot of the tanking, and he takes most of the damage. And so when you're soloing, it's really easy. It's really easy to level, real easy to get out of situations. You can res your pet. It's, as far as I'm concerned, probably the easiest solo class back in the original game. And then because I had a mage and I had a hunter, I decided to play something I had never played before. Excuse me. Which is or was a priest. So I played a healer class. When Farm Don said he was going to play a druid, I was hoping he was going to play a resto druid, so play the healing version of the druid, and then I would have played either the hunter or a fighting class, a tank class, a damage class, and realizing that neither one of these two had played before, and that mages are easy to kill, can do a lot of damage, but they're easy to kill if they do too much damage and they aggro. And Farm Don is learning a new class, hunter, and doesn't have a lot of experience with it, and I could walk him through it. That I would go ahead and do a priest. So we got online for a bit. We played for a couple hours, and then my muscle memory from those original game, from the original, my coding in the game, my playing of the game, everything else, because we would put in 60 hours a week, maybe 80 hours a week of game time between coding and playing, back when we were working with Blizzard. That when we got on and we were playing basically classic WoW, in the old cities with the old stuff, I was just remembering, I was telling them, okay, hit this button, do this, you should see this icon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Excuse me again. God, I'm so sick. And he really quickly got a hold of the game and understood it and really started enjoying it. And I started enjoying it, although I was learning a whole new class and was having to read everything and trying to figure out all the buttons. It really became fun again. Now, we didn't get to hook up with Wifey yet. Sometime this week, we'll all set a time and we'll all three play together because we're all in Stormwind now. So I did both I and Farm Don, he changed from a human to a dark elf hunter, and to be able to play with him, I did a dark elf priest. We're all in Stormwind now, which is the major city. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through a bunch of the classic material right now before we get into a quest keeps popping up for us to go to talk to the dragon kind. And once you talk to them, it advances the game to the newest era of the game. And we're going to avoid that for a while and not go do that quest, and get a bunch of the old stuff done. Because I think the old stuff was better, I think, at teaching all the basic elements of the game. And the muscle memory, like we did our first dungeon, the two of us, and I was like, we walked in there and Farm Don was like, oh my God, look at this. This is amazing. And even just going into Stormwind for the first time, the graphics. So same main area, but the graphics have been up-res so much. It's so vibrant. And you're walking around, you're seeing other new players, all the old frustrations coming back of you trying to grab a mob and somebody coming out there and stealing it from underneath you. Yeah, but overall, the question I asked was, has the game held up? I think it has. I mean, I haven't talked to Wifey. I think she's on this morning. Wifey, are you on? Maybe she's not on this morning. If Wifey were on, I'd ask her here. It's like, what did you think of the game? Did you like it? I think she told me yesterday that she was enjoying it. Farmed On, I had him, in my ear. We were on voice, and he was, you could hear, he went from major frustration to not enjoying the game and not even enjoying the graphics and the stories and all the cinematics and everything else, to once we shifted him to a class that was slightly easier to play. Oh, you are here. Hey, Wifey. So I'll ask you, did you enjoy the game? I know the learning curve is a little bit big, but I mean, what did you think? Do you think that World of Warcraft, as a first-time player see it, has the game held up? I mean, this game is so old. I mean, it's coming up on 20 years old. And so, yeah, as almost a 20-year-old game, going into it for the first time, does it play well like a modern game? What did you think? Just out of curiosity. And while she's answering, I'll keep going with the Ollie thing, the Farm Don thing. So then when I got to play with them for that little bit of time, and I kept saying, okay, try this, click this button. This is what they're saying when they do this. And he was like, oh, I'm getting it now. Once he locked on and he started getting it and he got less afraid of either making mistakes or his frustration level is done, then it was all oohs and ahs. Yeah, when he realized the depth of the game, which was good for me. So I would have to say that based on that little bit of information, that I would think, if you now playing it for the first time, would you know this is a 20-year-old game with updates? So I would say that what Farm Don is digging it. Definitely a learning curve. Yeah. An MMORPG, massive multiplayer online role-playing game. All role-playing games are pretty immersive and have steep learning curves anyway. It's not like a shooter, things like that. The idea of a RPG is there's usually all kinds of skills and leveling and all kinds of stuff in a role-playing game. Role-play games are notorious for Baldur's Gate. You can name the game. Typically have steeper learning curves than a shooter where you grab a gun, run into area, and just kill. And the World of Warcraft, pardon me, designed itself to allow a amount of depth, so no two people would have to play it the same way. So just in your skill set, so you have all your classes, all your races, each one come with different things, right? You know, certain races have certain skills that others don't, have maxes, have minimums. Then you have your classes that you have maxes and minimums and things like that. Okay. She said, yeah, she wouldn't have known it was a 20-year-old game just going into it if you had not heard about it before. That's good. So again, I think it did hold up, for new players. So all those nuances, and then within your class, there's specialties. So every class has 3 specialties. One if you're basically going to be a support. We'll call one a support specialty, one a solo specialty, and one an attack specialty. Right? And so you have to choose which one of those you're going to do. And then within your specialty, you get this spider web of skills that you have to pick as you grow. As your character grows, you have to pick, and it changes the dynamic of how you play the game. And it literally is a spider web. It's just kind of this massive list of things, and you click one and it opens up 1 to 3 more. And then the one you choose there opens up another spider web, and you kind of go down. So everybody's creating a unique build. And then, that ties into who you play with. And then you have professions like tailoring and herbalism and all these other things which you need to advance in the game. And there's so many of those too, and then subclasses of those, and then support skills and cooking and skinning and herbalism and archaeology. And I mean, the game gets deep, and it's no wonder why when the game originally came out, people were getting fired from work, and people were living their lives on this game because the depth of this game is massive. Now, this time around, because I'm not working for the company, I'm going to try to dedicate myself to 1 day per week that we can potentially stream, and a couple of hours a day of that they're playing that, depending on what Wifey and Farm Don. We really need, when Farm Don and I saw yesterday, he was laughing. It's very Pokemon Go. Bag space is important. You can solo things if you're high enough, mobs and things like that, but a team is better. You could do it with a team of 3 or 5, depending on your level. The easier things are to solo, and but a team of 5 is a minimum for some of the upper echelon, fight things that you have to fight, and kind of well balanced. And we have 3, so we're going to be looking for 2 more starters eventually, to kind of join in on the fun and the fray. and anyway, I hope I end up enjoying this as much as I have kind of working with Farmed On so far. I can't wait to get on with Wifey and play. I think we're at a point now. Wifey, what level did you get to on your account? So Farmed On and I stopped yesterday, I think at 10 or 11. Yeah, the goal is to get to 15, I think, or and then we can meet up now at the level we're at. But we all kind of want to start off the same level, and the leveling will kind of break apart because you're going to get specialty leveling, and you're going to get, but when you team up, we both leveled at pretty much the same level because we grouped, and your group experience and everything else is much better than solo experience. And we were taking things down like they were nothing. We get Wifey on there, and Wifey stands in the background and she just rains spells on these guys. And, Farmed On sends his pet out there to do the tanking, and I just heal everybody. We're going to be fine. We really need to get a, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to come back and do the other content with us then. Okay, so you actually left Stormwind. You're way out. You're out in a whole new game area, right? I think the dragon task had you get on a ship, and you take a ship or something to a whole new area, a whole new section of the world. Because dragon in the basic game that we're playing, and you would have been playing originally, the dragon kind is there, but that task is to bring all those other races into the game that we wouldn't have met yet. And so I think they need to take you to a new area. I think they took you to a new area. I don't think that dragon kind quest kept you in Azeroth. Yeah, so because I haven't done that, I don't even know how you would get back into Azeroth, and I don't know if it'll be interesting. I guess what we need to do is I'll try to figure out today how you get back to Stormwind into Azeroth, and then we can try running the old content. For you, I think what's going to end up happening is a lot of the old quests will just be grayed out, and so you might not get any experience from any of them because all that area has been explored and the storyline has been advanced. And so most of those quests were originally meant that you started the Stormwind, your main city, and then the world was built because you couldn't just run out there and fight level 40 guys when you were level 10. So the area surrounding Stormwind was like level 1 to 10, and then you kept going further and further out, and the levels kept getting higher of the things that you were fighting. And you would learn the lore and the storyline of how the races work together as you built. And as the new advances in the game have happened, what they did is if you downloaded the new game and started new game content, the old stuff kind of just is insignificant anymore. And you're playing all new content. And they still have low-level areas in the new content for the new races that came with that new game. And you can still start the old ones. It was just... Yeah, so like I said, you're in it. If we wouldn't know, like our characters, if we tried to get over to where you are without doing that quest, that it won't even show in the map. It will not exist because the storyline and the races and the wars, none of that will have progressed there so far. So that's okay. So you got to 15. That's good. Sounds like Farmed On and I might have a little bit of work to do, and then we'll figure it out. That's all good. It's all good. All right. I only got 3 minutes left. So anyway, thought it was good. Thought, it was an enjoyable game. Mechanics were still, actually yeah, considering I was having a hard time with the dragon race and things like that, the mechanics are obviously still challenging, right? They still have a lot of depth to them. So I really enjoyed all that. And looking forward to getting both wifey and farmed on into the area. If anybody else decides they want to play, you can let me know. I'll tell you what server we're on and everything else, and we can meet up. Leveling is not difficult. I mean, wifey, I don't remember what level she got to the first time, but she accidentally went on the wrong server and it leveled up, and then she jumped back. We corrected the server and she had to start again, and she shot up to level 15 obviously very quickly and progressed very quickly. Wifey, did you end up getting the email with the extra stuff for the game from my buddy? I know he sent it out to everybody. I just don't know if anybody got any of the stuff. So let me know, and you can either send that in Discord or whatever. Not a big deal. All right. Hey, and wifey, I might make a suggestion. Since you have a character on another server, if you want to, what I'm going to be doing to kind of figure out like what I'm going to do next couple of days to figure out how you potentially go over and come back is you can have different characters either on the same server. So you could create a whole new character on that server, but you'd already leveled your old one up to like 13. You can jump on that server and play ahead. So then when we jump in together, if you're learning mechanics and things like that and you want to do it, don't do it on the character we share. I said the same thing to Farmed on. Don't do the character you share, because you want to level up together. So we don't want to get too far in each other's storylines that it's disjointed. But if you're enjoying the game, definitely play on another character. You could, like I said, you already have a mage, you have the same build, everything else. Go play it. Go have some fun. Learn the character. And then but when you jump on the joint group, you'll be better at your skills for doing so. All right, guys, it's 8:00. That's it for me today. I have a lot to get done today. It's the end of the month. I've got to figure out if I'm going to Virginia. Everything else. I'm going to do one last thing here. I said I was going to do it. I am going to go ahead and go live with host. Bam. Okay, so Pops has now sent his thing, and now I'm going to do it. Share. All right, on all right, on Instagram and on Twitter, I have posted. So you guys can go to either one of those and check it out, please. I would appreciate it. We want to go out there and make sure that we're sharing this stuff, and let's get Australia on the map. So have a great day. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Let's get some work done. Let's have some fun. Let's enjoy life, because life is precious. We will talk to you very soon. Ciao.